noise around here, so I'll just go on mute. Hey, good morning, Greg. Hey, we can't hear you. I think you're on mute.
I am.
Yes.
I am. There you go. So, yeah, this is, or good evening, I should say. John and I
Evening,
had
Greg.
a couple discussions over the past few days, and I also spent some time writing some thoughts down. I think you saw, and yeah, I think we're excited about how things are coming together, and I think we have a lot of hopefully some guidance that we can help you with.
Excellent. Let's give it some, give it a few minutes for others to join, and then we can kick off right away.
Definitely. Okay.
In the meantime, I could just show you a recolored logo for the website that we tried to do. Um, do you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
How does this look like?
It's an interesting blend. I think we still have the challenge with the width of the UB. I think that should be a little bit less wide.
Okay, I'll take notes.
Yeah, the UB that was on 5 was actually just about right. I still would make the U a little bit narrower from the 5.
Do you know how much narrower, say 10% or?
Yeah, I'd say about 10%.
Okay. What about the colors? Does this look okay, or you want to try a few other?
I think it will be very hard to replicate that wherever we're putting it. And I think by doing this, you end up losing it on a lot of backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if we have it on a dark background, the B will sort of fade away. And obviously, we have it on red, it'll disappear. And, again, the sports will disappear if it's on a dark background. So we have to work on colorways that stand out. So I think either a red blend or a blue, either red or blue for both UB make more sense. And that's one of the things I didn't like about this one was that it was a blend, a faded from red to the blue. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the original one has blue. So, do you want to stick with that, or you're saying that we should try a red on the same theme?
Clearly we have to stay with, we're going to need a couple of them because sometimes it's going to be on a dark background, sometimes it's going to be on a red background, and we have to, adjust for that. But I think it should just be a single color, and either red or blue, I think will probably protect us from being lost on lots of things.
Gotcha. So I think our designers will take care of setting the background for the logo whenever they're designing a page, so that things will appear with decent contrast with the background.
Now, what's your feeling on for the site in general? the colorway for the site. Do you think the general background should be dark, like a black or a dark gray, or should it be white and just, you know, do like Google, just have it white?
Yes, so our team has done a quick design just for your reference. I mean, at least you will have somewhere to start with and then iterate over that. So, anybody from the team, would you like to present the design to Greg, maybe Binu?
Ajish, you can do it. I can support you in explaining the elements.
Excellent. So let me share that now.
Okay, looks like
Greg,
John's,
just
Yeah, Greg, please note that it is.
yeah, Greg, it's a work in progress.
oh, of
At
course,
the same time,
understood.
yeah, it's just an initial thought what the designer had, and we can tweak it in any manner that you prefer. Okay, that's it. Let me try to share it. Apologies for the background noise. There's some work going on at my home.
Don't worry about it.
Do you see it?
Yep.
So this is the home screen, like once the user has logged in. And sorry, yeah. So this is the one. I guess before logging in. Correct me, Binu.
Yeah, Ajish, it is correct. But one correction I have asked to the design team is that before logging in, they are using some indication icons. Instead of that, we will go with the textual menu because it may be confusing for a first time or a new visitor what each icon represents. Then we don't need the profile icons and all. And on the top right, you will have a toggle menu that is actually for displaying all the sport groups. So I have asked them to move it to the left side, which is a common behavior.
Gotcha. So rather than explaining, I think in our next meeting, Greg will try to present that to you as well, with all the
Yes.
changes that Binu is saying right now. But
Then
overall,
some
you,
sections.
yeah, Greg, overall, do you want to go ahead with this design, or should we ask my team to like rethink the whole thing?
No, I actually think it looks pretty good. I'm wondering how much editing and curation this will take to make this work. It looks nice. I love the concept. You have lots of pictures and video. That looks really good. Does the team have any idea where ads will go on this?
Also,
Uh,
let me, yeah,
Greg,
let me,
the ads can come between each post because right now we are using the left column, the vid wider column for displaying the content. You can mix the ads there as well as you can use the right sidebar also for displaying the ads.
Okay, good. That's excellent. Oh yeah, it looks very nice.
Then
Very clean.
Then one section which is missing on the right side is the events. We are using the concept of a calendar with some indicator backgrounds for displaying the public open events. So that
Right.
section is missing. A lot of sections are missing in these pages. We
Yeah,
need
there
a
are
lot
some
of
sections
videos.
missing. You're missing the Twitter feed,
Yes.
and there's going to be an RSS feed you're missing there. So I see some things
Yes.
that we are missing so far on this, but you know, that's a lot of stuff there. John, what's your thought on it?
One, I'm curious where the browser fold is on a standard display. You know, what's going to be above the fold versus below the fold. Second, I would question as the user scrolls through the page, like where you get the section with the posts or that video, as the user scrolls, is the content going to dynamically load below? So is it like a
Yes.
forever scrolling
Yes.
page?
Yes, it is like
Okay.
what the Facebook does. It is an infinite scroll.
Okay. And then the footer, I presume, at least on the desktop version, will be visible at all times, even with the scroll. If you have it, you know, a infinite scroll, there really is never a bottom of the page. So I'm curious how the footer will behave and whether it's the height of that footer is too tall to do that. If it consumes too much screen real estate
Yeah,
with
that's
that
a valid.
kind of a page design.
Binu, I
Okay,
think
Ajish, I think we will have to rework on that section because it is taking around 10% of the screen height right now. If it is going to be a fixed one, then we will have to redesign on it.
yeah. Do we need a footer in the first place? If this is going to be
If it is going to be an infinite scroll, I think we can reduce the footer to a single line, like the copyright section along with the social media links.
yeah, I feel that would
And
be better.
then once if we reach the end of the full post, then we can display better full height footer if required, some sort of a dynamic code.
Yeah, Binu, let's work on that.
I
Present
Okay, sure.
all those visuals in the next meeting.
Yeah, sure.
So other than
Greg,
that,
what's your feedback on the second screen, the screen that is right now displayed? This is the screen that the user will get once they are logged in.
I think it makes sense. I can't really read the words; they're too small right now.
Okay.
But maybe that's better. Yeah, that looks curated contents. I don't know if on my personal page if I need curated content there. But I think we have to as far as the look goes, I like the look. I think that we have to dive into the explore more box because it's just a matter of how we're going about the activities on basically the workflow where we find those questions. You know, am I there to look at wellness or my parental thing or you know, something like that, or am I looking for a sport and information on a sport? So I think we have to dig further down to that. Could you go down a little, back up to the top? Yeah, see where it says UB Sports Live, Sports Portal, wellness portal groups, parents portal.
Ajish,
And UB Sports Trophy is a new one to me, but that's sort of cool.
So we have done only this much so far. Um, the other pages are yet to be uh, built or designed.
Okay, that's no problem. Yeah, what's the middle section you have right there? Greg Burton, I can't, is that supposed to be something that I wrote or something that, you know, what's the purpose of that one and the one below it?
Binu, can you explain that, please?
I
Yeah.
think that is a quick update posted by Greg Burton. That is what the design team intended for. You can have a small post with a few images and a text.
Okay, yeah.
One suggestion is I think we will have to give a indication on what type of post or what or to which group it belongs to. That section is missing in each post.
Right. It might be more important for someone who's looking at my on this screen of mine, my profile screen, to instead of seeing a single post, to have it might be worthwhile to have actually a single post and then a listing of my prior posts. But we'll have to work on that. I don't want to waste too much time today or too much space on this page for well, let's worry about that later. This is going to be an interesting thing. And if you look at my the profiles that we built on the current site, it's a little bit different, but it has a lot of the same stuff to it. Now, what is the lorem ipsum to the left? What is that supposed to be?
Binu on
I
the left
haven't
side.
actually, Ajish, I haven't actually brainstormed into it. I'll have to design or what that space is intended for.
Okay, yeah, I
Uh,
understand it's a little bit early to be talking about that, but I like the general feel. It looks nice. I like the very light gray background, and the colors of the font look good. What's your feeling, John?
It's a clean look. I like it. I'm not sure on the homepage screen, you know, that we want a list of members.
Yeah,
Um,
that is a mistake actually. We haven't removed it yet. The first screen. Yeah.
The first few thoughts that went through my head are on, I'm not sure what pages people will want to print, but I'm assuming like on the events page, you know, if they look at their calendar, they may want to print the events page. I don't think you're going to necessarily be printing a profile page. So my thought is on pages that people are going to want to print, we want to make sure that we have a print style which prevents things like background colors from printing.
Yeah, sure.
Things of that nature. That's a little far off in, you know, the development process where and the design, but we will potentially need for those pages that people are obviously going to print the ability to turn off that gray background. We don't want them to print it and be wasting all their ink and toner on a colored background. So that's one thought that came into my head.
There's a dynamic technique that people are using for those footers. When you are scrolling using your cursor or your up down arrows, the footer goes away, and then when the page sits for like 5 seconds, the that footer will, it's still not big like this, but the footer will pop back up. So there might be something that'll solve that problem with having, you know, a bottomless page.
Okay. I
Yeah,
understand.
the other thing I'm thinking, and it's also a little premature for this, and Greg, this is something for you to note, is once we kind of agree on the logos that we'll use, whether it's 1 or 4 of them or whatever, you'll probably want to submit them for trademark,
Yeah, absolutely.
et cetera. So just be aware, guys, that our logos, the primary logo will probably have a registered trademark symbol with it. And I
Okay.
believe the copyright line at the bottom will need to have UB Sports Inc. listed kind of after the year and before the
Yeah.
words all
Yes.
rights
Yes.
reserved. The question that Greg had about the ads, I know that the ads can display in between posts dynamically, but I do believe that we need to have some space either on the right column or left column or along the top between the header and the content for not just ads, but for possibly a site notification. If there's going to be site maintenance, we'll need to be able to post a message at the top of the screen so that people know that there'll be maintenance this weekend. So we'll need to incorporate that kind of space in there, even though it won't always display.
And it also could be
So
a
those,
place for a
those,
site sponsor as well.
so those are my immediate thoughts.
Okay, so I think we can say that right now it's a good start. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, I was just about to say that, Greg. So we are heading in the right direction. I hope you have noted whatever feedback we have received so far. I think we can now move on to clarifications from our last meeting.
Agreed.
Binu, are you ready with the questions? Binu and Milind? Do we have Krishna Preview on?
Yeah, I don't on the call.
Yeah, I don't see her.
That's okay. So let's go ahead with your questions, Binu, and then we'll pass it on to Milind for his questions.
Yeah, Ajish, one question was related to that subgroups actually. I think Greg had shown us the subgroup issue with last meeting itself. So, but one issue I noticed is that it looks like a site loaded inside an iframe itself. Like you are having a main menu for the groups. Then for the subgroup, we are loading the similar type of menu for the subgroup again. So like a repeating menu, which is loaded inside the content section itself. I would like to know whether is there any possible option to redesign it so that it looks like nice when we are in a subgroup page.
Yeah. Well, how to make it look nice? I think that it would be probably smart to have a drop down that puts the it could be, you know, Ubers / subs in one drop down, and when it drops down, it shows sort of a tree of where the current group is in that tree, starting off with tennis, down to the USTA, down to the region, down to the individual club. Or on the other hand, it could be US Soccer to the Long Island League, and then the local league, and then the team. And the ability to say, I want to go to the team portal. That's, I guess, the only way I can think of to make it look nicer and more clear as to what the hierarchy is. That's a good question, actually. It'd be nice to do something like that.
Yes. Because from a user point of view, it looks like in my first view, I thought it was like a site loaded inside an iframe. So it was having a bad user experience or a user
Yeah,
feel.
I was also confused actually because we are having some other sites, I think, loaded in that area, right? In some other places. So,
Well, in other places, there isn't even a subs or an Ubers. So yeah, there are different things that will pop up there instead.
yeah, so
And we also need on all pages, by the way, we're going to need shop tab that will lead you to back to buying stuff on Total Equips. So just keep that in mind. There needs to be space for that on the probably on the right edge.
Yeah, he's looking for a button that takes you to the store.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that we can do, John.
So John, any idea from you as to how we can create that nesting concept better outside of a graph or a chart?
This is for the menu.
For when there are groups that the current group you're looking at belongs to, and that there might be groups underneath that group. Like if it's a little league and there are 10 teams under it, but it belongs to US Little League.
Greg, one clarification which I need: how many level of nesting are you suggesting? Is it like one level?
It can be as many as 4 or 5. You're talking about the national, then the district, then the local league, and then the individual team. So it could be as many as 4 or 5 probably.
I think the way we do that would be best served by using what I call breadcrumbs at the top of the page, and maybe that needs to be built into the design. Greg, if you think about various types of sites, typically shopping sites. If you think of Amazon, for example, at the top, you'll see a link to Amazon, which will take you to the home page.
Sure.
Then a link for, home and garden. And then it has like an arrow and it points to, pots and pans, kitchen supplies, beauty, something like that. But it leaves you a trail. It's a one-line thing, so it takes up very little real estate, and it does give you a visual indication as to kind of where you are in the tree. I think it gets really complicated if we try to nest all of that data into a menu, because you'll have, and this leads back to their question is, how many levels, cascading levels are you going to have? And that becomes very cumbersome to manage. And it's a lot of data to throw out onto the page, because if you have 100 sports and you break them all down, that's a lot of data to throw across the wire when someone might only really be interested in one sport.
Sure.
So I think if we minimize the depth of the menu to being kind of top level items, and then you use that breadcrumb, that gives you the ability to go kind of like, let me rephrase that. The menu should kind of be what's underneath versus what you're doing. So if you're at a regional or local level, all you might see on the menu are the leagues in that region, but yet the breadcrumbs would allow you to kind of navigate back up the tree.
Yeah, and that's interesting because usually your workflow, if you're let's say you wanted to find a pot, you would start off with home goods, then kitchen, then cooking supplies, right, to get to pot. In this situation, you wouldn't necessarily go through that workflow. You would go my team, right? You go to the team. Would you build the breadcrumbs as if you had already you had started at the top and gone down? That would be really cool if you could.
Yes, depending on the data model.
Yeah, so
right. I mean, you'd have to define those hierarchies would still have to be defined in the same way that you would do it for a cascading menu. It's just that you're not displaying it as a menu.
Yeah, that would be really cool. So you start off in the left corner with the sport, and then the next thing would be the governing body, then the local organization.
Yeah, and that would maintain, the hierarchy that you build between, what you call the Ubers and the subs, without affecting or complicating the menu functionality.
Yeah,
And it would allow the menu to be far more focused on the context of the page that you're on.
Not only that, but
Banu,
I totally agree. I think that it would also spark a lot of curiosity.
Banu, does that make, I mean, you understand what I'm describing, correct?
Yeah, yes, John, I understand.
Okay. I think that'll alleviate some of the concerns. It does not alleviate the complexity of defining that hierarchy. But I think that hierarchy is, one of the essential elements of the data model that we're going to have. At some point, somebody like Greg or myself or somebody's going to have to go through and kind of identify that hierarchy to start with.
Yeah, and
Okay.
there could be two different hierarchies depending on what kind of a team you're playing on. If you're playing on an extracurricular team, then you're going to see the general hierarchy. But if you're on a school team, for example, you would have the school team, then the school, and then the high school organization of the state or the country, and then the larger back out to the country organization.
Yeah, and I think Greg, technically, I don't believe that there's a difference there, because ultimately, if you look at any given item, there's going to be, a single parent, something that's above it, something that it belongs to.
Right.
And then there's going to be children items. So whether it's recreational or scholastic or, professional, what have you, there's the definition would be like a parent-child relationship. And of course, the what you would call the root elements have no parents. Those would be the sports themselves.
Right, exactly.
So, you can theoretically have an infinite number of levels defined in that manner. Your limitation comes to what's manageable for someone who has to, take care of the administration of that stuff, whether it's us or whether it's a group administrator, or what have you. So, you're not going to define something that has 50 levels because it becomes unwieldy and overwhelming.
Yeah, of course.
But technically, there's no real limitation on that kind of a design.
You know, also a good thing about that is that the top left corner would always be the sport. And it would be good if that drops down to all the other sports, starting with the sports that I care about. So if I like skiing, squash, and sailing, and I cursor over that top left corner where right now it says skiing, squash and sailing drop down, and then all the rest of the sports drop down. So I can go into whatever sport I'm interested in. But if I'm just seeing the sport that I'm concentrating on right now, that would make sense. And
Yeah,
that,
no, I don't think you do that. You don't like the breadcrumbs that you leave across the top of the page aren't going to be active in that way. They're just really going to be text-based links.
they usually are. Yeah.
I would imagine. And the root one would be like UB Sports. So you would always have UB Sports in the top left. And then if you went into a sport like tennis, it would be UB Sports / tennis. So if you wanted to see the other sports, you would click on the UB Sports. And once you're back on that page, there would be in the menu, all of the sports would be listed there for you. You know, similar to the way Amazon would do it. If you go into Home Goods, your breadcrumb trail is Amazon Home Goods. And if you want to go back to the other categories, you don't put your mouse over Home Goods, you click back to Amazon, and that page gives you the ability to navigate into different departments or categories, if you will. So for example, ours would be, you know, if you're on a particular team, ours would be something like UB Sports / tennis / you know, US Tennis Association / some league / team. Okay, so that's kind of the way I would see that working. I think the best thing would be for kind of that to be mocked up to see how that would work, to build that into these designs. And then we can kind of discuss it and we can get a better feel, Greg, on exactly how that will work. And if we have any unusual requirements for that.
All right. That's fine. Yeah. But guys, as you're going through this, just remember as you're developing the database that's one of the things that we see sort of as necessary to have have that capability, have the
That's
nesting.
possible, right, Binu?
Yeah, it's clear, Ajish.
Excellent. So just let the whole team know that the goal of this meeting is to finally freeze our SRS document so that we can go ahead with developing the application itself.
Okay.
So any of your clarifications from either side, Binu or Milind or John or Greg, let's put them on the table today. And if it's a longer discussion, then we can maybe reschedule or schedule another meeting for that particular topic. But if we can cover most of our doubts or confusions, let's do that in this meeting. So
Yeah.
Anything more from your side, Binu? Are we good to freeze the SRS with all the questions, all the answers that we got?
Milad, do you have any questions or pending
Yeah, so
doubts?
we were actually wanted to discuss the things which were we felt was out of scope for this estimations, so which were not listed in the SRS. So the first thing would be the opt-outability of emails. I think we haven't still defined the categories of email. So I think for the initial scope, we'll stick with 4 or 5 general categories. Later, we can add multiple categories or subcategories in which this can be done. Optability of like email stuffs. And the other thing which I felt was giving the control for the user from the profile itself for like at a single place for opting out of the type of mails in his all groups. So that thing I guess was not estimated by us. And these two are the initial stuff. And one more other thing which I noticed was the dynamicity of the contents relating to the user roles. So we haven't actually considered that for the initial scope. So I guess for now, we'll have a fixed format, and later we can actually work on the dynamicity of the contents. That's my suggestion, because if the foundation is clear, then we can actually work it on, I mean, build on top of that. So I guess these three things are stuffs I wanted to say, I mean, like flag out, which we haven't considered for the initial timeline.
Okay, so I would like to make, just to start off the SRS by stating that the least we can expect from the site side of things, not the apps, but the site, is what is currently available and the current workflow and functionality of the site now.
Yes, Greg, that part is locked. But when we went to details, I'm sure you and John have a lot of ideas on how to make the site better and all. But our suggestion would be, for the initial scope, let's just build the foundation stronger by building whatever there is on the website. Then later we can add on stuffs. So only a couple of things which I pointed out were out of scope. So that's the only thing I mentioned. But other stuffs which are there in the website are already there in the SRS, I guess.
And Greg, I'm not opposed to that path forward.
I'm not either.
Especially if it allows us to on some of the other functionality before we get into how dynamic the pages are. Additionally, I think that most of the roles, that we have that are going to really want the page to be a little different, to be dynamic towards that role, a lot of those are going to fall into the custom apps, like for the recruiters or the trainers, etc. So I'm okay with that going forward, having a fixed structure. The only thing that we want to build in, I think right now, is that when you go to a group page, there clearly is going to be a difference between what an anonymous user sees and a member sees. So
Yes,
I think,
yeah.
I think we have to have that distinction. You know, we need to tell you what it is that an anonymous user will see versus a member. But that may potentially lead to an alternative, either an alternative wireframe or potentially just an alternative design. So that is something that we need in this initial scope, is that breakdown between anonymous and member.
Yes, that part I understood, John. Anyway, we will have a the structure of the group is actually like fixed, right? Like ambassador content, videos, bulletins, events, all those stuffs. So we can determine what all things are visible to the anonymous user and what all things will be visible to the admin side. Not admin side, the member side.
Member.
So that part, yeah. Anyway, we can handle. But once we talk about the dynamic contents with the user roles for different user roles, then I guess it's better to add it on later once we build the basic functionality. That's the only thing I wanted to point out.
All right. One of the other questions was the opt-out. And
Yeah,
believe-
so yes, John, currently we don't have much options in the current site for the opt-out ability, right? Only for some notifications and some kind of mails, 2 or 3 kind of mails, I guess we have that kind of ability, right?
Yes.
Yes. So what I was thinking, maybe we can add 1 or more 2 categories. But when Greg discussed it previously, and you also said we needed to decide whether how to give the granular control for this feature to the user. So I guess that part also will have to, decide and come upon. So I think
let
that
me interrupt there.
Yeah.
I think that the concept of having a single page or place for the user to go in their profile to manage all notifications and things of that nature, the frequency, et cetera, is something that can fall into the future scope. I forget who mentioned it, but someone said we could have, 4 or 5 general categories. I agree with having a couple of general categories right away. I don't think we even need 4 or 5. I think there's 3, maybe 4, but I believe that there's really 3 that we can focus in on. And those are the most critical. One would be to opt out of all UB sports marketing. The second would be to opt out of all third-party marketing. And the fourth would be to opt out of any store-related marketing, anything that's pitching a product in our store. So those are the 3 general categories, I believe. And Greg, you and I can discuss that offline if that satisfies our needs, but that's what I think we kind of agreed on. So those are the 3 main categories that we need to maintain in a general sense for the user. Otherwise, in the initial scope, when you go into the group settings, when a member goes into the group settings, they can say they can opt out of that specific group, or they can specify a frequency within that group. And I think, in my mind, that's not the greatest user experience, because if I'm in 50 groups, that means I have to go to 50 pages and pick and choose, et cetera, instead of one place. But I think for the initial scope, that's the way we'll do it. Frankly, we're not going to get the bulk of our opt-outs and things immediately upon release. It's going to take a while for our membership to build up and for us to start moving forward and producing these types of communications. So I think we have time to include a better way to do that for the user in the future scope. So those are my comments on the opt-outs. And I think that kind of aligns with what you're saying.
John, can I share my screen for a second? I just want to show what we have currently. And because we do have something like that. This is on the notification side of my world, which is my profile. We have notifications, and we have discussions, events, and new members that can either be immediate, daily, weekly, or none. I think we can take, I also would think that we would want something like member invites from other members and invites from groups to be included in this first thing, because those are something that we can expect to have a lot of happening, and also events. We might 3 things right now.
Yeah, Greg. So this functionality by default it will be there, but what I was talking about was from the user profile. If suppose, as John told, if he had 50 groups, the things he could be able, I mean, he would be able to opt out specific things from specific groups, right? So that,
Exactly. Yeah.
yes,
Right.
that concept, I think that concept, I guess, we'll have to push to the next phase.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring the point up that we have this functionality already on the
Yes,
site,
yes, yes. This
and
this
that
will
we
be
can't
already there
use
because this
it.
is group notification defaults. It
Yeah.
once you change something, it is by default applying to all groups, right? So what John was saying, that the individual control over the groups, opt-out ability from the individual groups at one place. So that's what I wanted to push it to the next phase.
Okay, and also up here you have the messages and notifications under the personal notification settings. So those also I think are necessary, and they also could be in the same immediate, daily, weekly, none
Yes, yes,
category.
yes. That's
All
fine.
right,
That's fine.
all right, good. Just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Yep. So I guess those are the two stuff from my side. Um, uh, I
Yeah,
think
you
that's
guys,
it.
there was
And
another
yeah,
question.
please,
There
John.
was another question um, about the welcome email, and I guess I really wasn't thinking about it as a completely a REST, you know, application. You know, when the user authenticates, when a member authenticates and logs in, how are you going to maintain their authentication? Like, how do you plan to do that?
John, we will be using a token-based authentication. We will be using the JWT tokens, and that will be stored in the database.
Okay. Here's what
So, do
my,
we need to keep a session? Okay.
I don't think we need to keep a session. That's not necessarily what I'm
Hmm.
implying. That certainly has significant performance impact. So that's not really what I'm suggesting. But the concept is that when a member signs up and they give us the couple mandatory pieces of data that we ask for, like their name and date of birth, if we send the welcome email right then, we know very little about them. Whereas if we were to wait until, you know, they left the site, you know, they might be on the site for a half hour, they might join, you know, 10 groups, et cetera. And if we waited a period of time after they gave us that initial information to send the email, the welcome email, we would be able to ultimately add in some calls to action based on what they've told us. In other words, that welcome email could potentially include at some point an ad for tennis rackets if we saw that they joined a tennis group. If we saw that they joined a basketball group, we might send them something about a basketball tournament taking place in their location within the next couple weeks. So it would allow us to personalize and customize the content in the email, which I'm not so sure that we'll be prepared to have that kind of customized content when we launch the app. So I don't know if it's necessary right away, but it would be nice to plan for and prepare for those emails to not be sent simply when the welcome emails to be sent when they simply submit that last bit of data to us. And whether this is set up as a scheduled job to be run every few hours, whether it's based on the expiration of a token or a session, et cetera, I think is subject, to debate, and we can decide that process later. But I think it's important as we look at how this happens, that our data model needs to support the fact that the welcome email may not ultimately be triggered simply because they've gave us that sign up information. When they submit that sign up information to us, that's not necessarily the ultimate trigger for that email. So whether there's, a flag in the database that maintains the fact that the welcome email was sent or not is something that should be part of the system. And that'll allow us to adapt to that kind of a functionality later.
Okay. Okay. Let me brainstorm on this with the development team. I think we can have a concept of web token-based system with a scheduling for implementing this functionality. There may be a possibility of using the real-time tokens or sessions like what we do when we are showing a user as online or offline. Whenever they close the tabs, we will get an event on the system, like WebSockets. There may be a possibility of using WebSockets for tracking whether the user has closed the browser or not. Let me think on that.
Yeah, that would be good. But I definitely see if we send it immediately upon finishing the screen and they submit the data, for now, the initial scope will be to send that email at that time. The email might be personalized with their name, but that's a simple transformation of the into the template.
Yes.
So I don't see that as an issue. But as long as we're focused on the ability to generate and send that email at a later time in the process, that is the ultimate desire. We will want to get there, at some point soon, but not necessarily in the first version. The next thing I want to touch on is the parental approval in different countries. Based on some of the initial research that Greg found, he believes that if we follow the US guidelines and regulations and such, we'll be fine for Europe as well as other countries. I'm a little bit hesitant to completely buy into that. However, I think for our first pass, that's acceptable unless, Greg's legal team suggests otherwise. So we'll have to, really kind of figure out if that's a change that we need to incorporate later or something. But for the time being, that we're in agreement that just one process is going to be needed, regardless of your geographical location. The email templates was another question you had, how many templates there were. I think your concern is that custom email templates aren't estimated. There are several email templates that we will need to use because the purpose, the function, and the content of that email is separate. Now, I
Yes.
believe that the template itself, the design, irrespective of the content that's in the email, I think we can get away with one design template, maybe two, but we do need the ability to inject content into that email template when we send it. And that content will need to be personalized, like with a first name, last name, or something of that nature. I believe that's, as we mentioned earlier, that's an easy transformation to the content. But and Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, but we have probably about 6 to 8 different types of messages, standard messages that go out. There's going to be like a welcome email. There's the parental approval email. There's the verification email to verify your email address. There's an invitation to join a group email.
Also,
et cetera. So I think that
join UB Sports itself. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I would say that that content can be written almost the same way as an invitation to a group, but
Sure.
But in any case, so the content, and I'm not sure when you guys questioned that custom email templates are not estimated, if you're talking about specifically the content of the email or the design. So
about the design, suppose we are having 7 to 8 type of emails, and each of them has a specific design or a layout, that will add complexity, because it will take around 6 to 8 hours for designing and implementing the HTML and testing it for different email clients. So that is actually a huge task. So if you are going with a 1 or 2 email designs, then that will be fine. That can be done in the same scope.
yeah, I think for our purposes, 2 templates will be more than sufficient. And Greg, just so you know where my head's at, one would be to handle all of the messaging that we do, basically. The second would be a much more refined layout, such as the verify your email address, the parental approval, because these are going to have language, they're legal related,
Yeah.
and we don't need to embed ads or a whole lot of graphics. They're functional specific to the process. So those are the 2 templates that I see initially, and I think that'll satisfy all our needs. So if we can, you guys can, note to yourself that we really think we'll only need 2 designs. One is going to be a very streamlined, basic one for those things such as the parental approval and thanks for signing up. Please verify your email address. Very simple, not a lot of graphics, etc. The other template would be designed with the ability to have some different images in it. And the content within the email, of course, would then be relatively dynamic. If we have 7 types of emails, maybe the image at the top of the email may change depending on what content, textual content is in that email. So if we have that flexibility, that'll satisfy our needs for the templates. We certainly did not mean to imply that we're going to need, 8 different templates, design templates for emails. That's not really where we want to go right now.
And the third one I think is going to be
absolutely possible.
And the third one I think is important is going to be a marketing one that's going to be sent out by our product people from Total Equips, trying to interest the members in buying stuff, buying a racket or buying a stick or something. And for that, I think that would just be the same basic layout. Hey, check out, this, and then there's going to be obviously a click through and a banner with a picture of the thing we're trying to sell. But that's also basic marketing, that's email 101.
Okay. Yeah, Ajish, we are clear with the email templates.
So when can we get a frozen SRS to be sent to John and Greg to sign off? Can we do that tomorrow by morning?
Yeah, yes. Jibin, is KP available tomorrow, or she is traveling?
I have to actually look at her calendar and know because I have no idea like whether she's available or not. But I'll make sure I'll inquire before we make a
Okay.
call.
Yeah, no worries. Let's
Okay.
let's target for Wednesday.
Mhm.
Try to send it to Greg and John for review by Wednesday
Oh,
morning, and
okay.
we'll set up another meeting Thursday morning, the evening our time. So that's like 3 days from now.
John, you good Thursday morning?
Thursday morning,
Hang on. Yes, I'm good Thursday morning.
Oh,
right?
I thought we were planning for Wednesday morning.
Wednesday morning.
I'm good. I'm good Wednesday or Thursday.
I don't think
Maybe
if you're producing this on Wednesday, your time, I don't think we'll have an opportunity to look at it until Wednesday, our time.
Yep, that's why I suggested Thursday.
Yeah, I think Thursday actually be better.
Yeah, let's try to save as much time as we can because we have a hard deadline.
Understood.
So, team, in the meantime, if you come across any questions, let's buzz John or Greg and try to get those answers as soon as we can, so that we are not delayed any further for freezing of the SRS.
Absolutely.
And
Okay.
yeah, and just to let you know, we will be starting with the wireframes immediately. So just the homepage that
Yes.
you saw, we will be presenting you all the other pages, just as John suggested, so that there's no confusion later on when we start developing the pages.
Okay.
Ajish, are we start? Ajish, are we starting the mobile wireframes also in parallel?
I need to check with Jibin on the milestones commitments. So
Okay.
that's in parallel, then we'll have to start it, or else
Yeah,
we can
that's
wait.
Millen doing that, right?
Yeah, it's done by Milind.
Okay, good. Excellent.
Right. So someone had a question.
No, I'm good from my side.
Okay. Great meeting. So thank you, gentlemen. Let's sync up on Thursday, sign this off, and then start get to work the site.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be exciting.
Yes.
All right. Bye bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Thanks, Greg. Thanks, John.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah,
Good
yeah,
call.
Thank you.
Everybody. Bye.
bye bye. Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.